Excellent. Well, guys, welcome to our presentation, which is a $10 million agency in 10 minutes. We're going to give you everything you need to know as it relates to both running an agency, understanding client reporting, and everything that happens on the back end. We will also go through a quick Q&A and answer any questions you have once we get through this presentation. So want to start off a little bit about us. So Manny, if you want to kick it off from your end.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Manny. I'm currently a digital marketing director. I oversee around 245 local dental practices across the US, and that amounts to around, I think, $3.4 million worth of revenue that I'm overseeing with a full suite of team members, right? So that includes a social media team, that includes some content creators, web developers, and obviously the day-to-day management of the accounts themselves. So a little bit of background, I actually just dove into digital marketing sector and had no idea what direction I wanted to take. I decided that paid search was definitely the route for me, given the scalability that it can have towards businesses. And I just took it from there. And then currently just seeing how much I could provide value to our clients and continue to make results happen on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. And then a little bit about me. So I currently lead our customer success team. We call our CSMs marketing strategists. And really our role is to ensure that our clients are understanding how their marketing dollars are being spent, that we're gathering data on the calls that we have with our clients, and getting that data and actually giving it to Emmanuel's team, and also retaining clients, which is incredibly important through retention efforts. A little bit about my story. I started off in sales, eventually transitioned into sales training under Grant Cardone, a very big influencer who offers sales training services. Eventually pivoted to this agency, started off as a CSM, customer success manager, and did well enough to eventually lead a team. Currently have about 8 individuals under me. About 5 of those are direct hires, or direct reports rather, and 3 of them are indirect. And really my role is to ensure that our clients are being spoken to, that we're retaining them. I'm the main point of contact for all issues. So any client has an issue with their services and the account manager needs somebody high level to jump on that call, I am that touch point, and I do run our retention meetings, as well as collaborative meetings with Manny and his team to figure out how we can continue to deliver our clients' success. So Manny, if you want to take away these next few slides.
Absolutely, man. So starting it off, so what is a digital marketing agency? So if we jump on to the next slide, we'll see that diving right into it, digital marketing is a multifaceted strategy that is aimed to target, reach out to, and build relationships with customers online primarily across a broad range of channels. So essentially, this could look like advertising on Google, on Facebook, on YouTube, etc. But the overall goal is to increase brand exposure and maximize the return on investments to allow room for scalability in these small businesses. So in order to understand these efforts, let's explore 2 main branches of marketing. So on one side, we have traditional, which is aimed more towards reaching a broader audience through billboards, radio ads, newspapers, etc. And on the other end, you have digital marketing, which is set to aim your advertising towards users who have already shown interest in products and or have already engaged with the brand. So where digital really stands out is when you can deliver actual value to your consumer, because you're serving them an ad that could help influence their decision. So how I like to look at it is the difference between fishing with a net and actually fishing with a harpoon. So this means that not only are you serving consumers a relevant ad, but you can immediately split test and see what resonates with the user. So let's say that you're driving through the highway, that ad is being served to a huge, robust number of people, but is it being served to the right person, right? When digital comes into play, you can immediately give them the ad that resonates with what they're searching for, which the likelihood of someone actually converting or placing a phone call or even booking a service is a lot more likely than someone who's just bulk driving through the expressway. So these 2 styles of marketing each play their own roles in their specific space, but it's important to understand the key difference, because there is a way to leverage both, and dependent on where the journey is on a specific business, whether one fits more than the other, I can tell you that on the digital side, there is more tweak to be more cost effective and have a higher return. but you'll still see huge companies like Coca-Cola, Nike still go through the traditional route because it does have its place. So if we jump on to the next slide, this is when it gets really interesting. So let's talk about the impact that marketing agencies actually have. So small businesses make up around 99.7% of US employer firms. So what does that mean? Well, essentially our economy is shaped up by these small businesses. So the way you want to think about it is small businesses are the backbone of the economy. And if we as digital marketers are coming in and providing value to then double, 3x, 4x, or 5x their return on their investment through these marketing efforts, then you can kind of consider us as the backbone to the backbone. So by providing this value, how I like to talk about it with my team is that not only are we allowing these businesses to gain exposure, target the right audiences, and bring them qualified leads every single month, but we're also assisting these small businesses to flourish, which in terms puts food on the tables of their employees, their families, and the overall economy. So the direct influence that we see on a day-to-day basis from these numbers that we're making pivots, adjustments, these creatives that we're looking at on the back end, it's more than just a number. And when you see it from that scale, you could really resonate with the impact that you're having on a global scale in the economy. And then I'll kick it back to you, Diego.
Yeah, if I can piggyback off what Manny's saying, I mean, it's so important what we do. I can tell you because obviously being in customer success, I talk to our clients regularly, and the tweaks that Manny and his team do, has a direct effect on our clients' revenue for that month. So a great example, just to give you guys an understanding of the impact we have. I have a client that started with us in April of 2020, during, just about a month after the pandemic started. And it was a dentist that bought a practice that he wanted to grow from scratch. He bought it from another from another dentist. And his whole goal was to, grow this practice. It's very common too for dentists to buy existing practices. And he had every intention to grow this from day one. He mentioned he wanted to do like Google ads, eventually wanted to do Facebook ads and direct mail, and obviously wanted to increase the amount of new patients he was seeing every single month. All in all to say is that we came in and created a strategy for him to get more Google reviews, because obviously that was a big goal for him. And he did mention that the practice didn't have the best reputation when he bought it. So we put up a strategy for him to get more reviews using QR codes. Fast forward to today, that dental practice is doing extremely well. I don't want to give out his numbers, but he's definitely making more than your average dental practice. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars per year. He's currently he went from 17 Google reviews in April of 2020. Fast forward to today, he's currently got about 1,400 Google reviews. 1,400 Google reviews from 17 just a couple of years ago. So when Manny's talking about, the direct impact that we have on businesses, just understand that that's one client. And every time I talk to him, he mentions to me, hey, like our dental practice is like a call center. We have way too many leads coming in, which is a happy problem. He's able to hire associates, meaning that, he's no longer the doctor that's doing all the work. Now he's able to hire other dentists to assist him. He's hiring on more front desk, and now he's planning on buying a second and third location, which he's rolling up into his practice group. So these are real stories that happen when digital marketing is done correctly. And it's a testament not only to, a well thought out strategy, but somebody like Manny and his team really, knowing how to execute on that strategy through omni-channel marketing. So, again, that's one story out of dozens that I have of real dentists in the United States that are able to grow their practices. Their front desk is able to grow within their organization to office managers because obviously they need more help. And they're able to hire on more associates and so on and so forth. So wanted to, add on to what Manny was saying, because this is so critical to our economy, making sure that we're able to generate leads for our clients. So talking a little bit about, a typical org chart in an agency. Again, this is just one org chart. You can have different ones. This is just what we typically see. And it's also the one that we have at our dental marketing agency. So obviously you have the CEO and founder sitting up at top. And then you have three different departments One of those being the digital marketing director, which is actually Manny's current position. And the individuals that sit in his department are our SEO team, SEO specialists, content writers, social media specialists, and obviously a team of paid search specialists. So all of them sit within Manny's department. Then you have the account management lead. That's client services, client facing, the individuals that actually talk to the clients, go through the strategy, retain, and do everything in their power to grow the accounts, meaning that if an account comes to us wanting Google ads, we have an effective account management team that can not only retain them through great customer service, but can also grow them to eventually do Facebook ads, Bing ads, Waze ads, direct mail, and even cross-sell to other business units within our organization, because we're not just a marketing agency, we also have other solutions we can help our doctors with. So obviously you have myself sitting up at top as the account management lead, and then you have a team of account managers and junior account managers that sit within my department. And then finally, you have a director of development. And within this department, typically you're going to find like a senior developer, individuals that actually work on the sites, work on the user interface, anything like that that requires the website to perform well. In our company, we call them launches, meaning like landing pages, websites, clients that are coming on for direct mail that are getting specialized landing pages so that the direct mail pieces that are sent out have a URL that's coherent when people actually look up the landing page. In our company, we call them launches, but in reality, they are the development pod being led by a director of development. So I want to talk a bit about what an account manager does. Every agency, every company might give them a different name. So they could be client success, which is what they're called. In our organization, you can also call them marketing strategists. You can also call them account managers, client performance managers. Really, they come in with different names, but the reality is their job is to communicate with the clients. They get a book of business, typically anywhere from 40 to 70 accounts. And the job of that account manager is to serve as the main point of contact for them if they have any issues at all. And they also serve as the voice of the customer throughout the organization, meaning that the account manager's job is to effectively communicate to every different department, serve as that liaison for every different department to be able to help this client in any way needed, meaning that they can go to the development pod, they can go to the direct mail specialist, our graphic designer, Manny and his team, whatever needs to be done to ensure customer satisfaction. Now, if you want to be an effective account manager, there are really 4 key aspects that you need to get down, especially if you want to even get into client success, which is a booming industry, not just in digital marketing, but just across the board. Customer success is a great position to potentially look into. But specifically account management, CSM, they got to focus on 4 key areas. So the first is communication. So you are expected to conduct monthly strategy calls with your clients. And really your goal, specifically in a digital marketing agency, is to discuss results while also gathering data for the company or for the agency, meaning that you're effectively communicating what the performance was of the marketing for the last 30 days, but you're also gathering valuable data that can then be put in a project management tool like ClickUp or Wrike or Monday.com. You can put in all the data that you receive from the client and then effectively give that over to, for example, Manny and his team. Happens all the time. I have a call with my client and they'll tell me, well, we want to get more implant leads this month. So the next time I go into my project management tool, I will let Manny know, hey, they want to put an emphasis on implant leads. Please look into this ad group when you're doing your next audit. Very important that Manny and his team has that data, because if I had not communicated to the client, Manny and his team would not know that this client wants to do a big push on implant leads, Invisalign leads, crowns and bridges, you name it. The second thing that you want to focus on, and this is key, is retention. So obviously communication is first. It's really the core of everything that you do. But the second thing is obviously retention. So obviously good agencies are going to be monitoring their customer attrition, which is the rate at which clients cancel their services. And very important that you understand how many clients are canceling their services on a monthly basis. I run our weekly retention meetings that are attended by a variety of people. So we have our lead project manager on there and our 8 CSMs that join those retention meetings. And really our goal is to understand what is happening that this client is canceling and what solutions can we provide to potentially save them for a little bit longer. So solutions that we typically offer are discounted services, free months, other solutions. Like for example, we just had a client that was a little bit upset a few weeks ago because they felt that they wanted to get more specialized leads. However, their Google their Google Ads account was doing extremely well. So I gave approval to the marketing strategist to give a couple months of Facebook ads free to run, if I'm not mistaken, was cosmetic advertising in order to generate more specialized leads for this practice. So those are just examples of strategies that we'll give on retention, but overall, any account manager worth their salt will be good at retaining clients. The third is growth. So obviously, if you're communicating with your clients, retaining them through effective strategies and solutions, obviously you don't just want to retain, you want to grow the account. And that'll be done through adding on additional services, through upselling, cross-selling. Typically, you're going to want to grow an account when the account's baseline is doing well. We actually just had a conversation with Manny today with one of my more senior customer success managers. And Manny, we had a discussion about how we can add on additional services and how we can identify what clients are ripe for growth. And typically those will be accounts that Google's ads are doing well. They have additional budget to spend for another advertising channel, and their cost per acquisition currently is very low. So if their baseline account is doing well, then at that point, we're going to start to talk about, adding on Facebook ads, Bing ads, Waze ads, direct mail, and so on and so forth. But we got to make sure that their core, advertising channel is doing well before we can start to even think about growing the account. And then finally, expertise. So given that you're meeting with your clients on a monthly basis, and given that you're expected to be the main point of contact for all of their needs, you do need to have expertise to talk effectively with that client on a monthly basis. You need to be able to quickly identify any bottlenecks that could be preventing them from getting the type of leads that they want. You need to be able to effectively communicate with the different departments within the company to identify what marketing strategy would work best. You may not have the expertise like somebody like Manny, who has dedicated their entire career to learning Google Ads and all these different marketing channels, but you do need to have enough knowledge to be effective. And I found that our most effective CSMs typically have a high level of expertise in marketing strategy as well as paid search. So those are the 4 areas that you really want to double down on when you're being an account manager.
Yeah, man. If I could actually piggyback off that last comment you said. So one of the main things that you always want to take into account, right? So Diego was mentioning about account managers and basically the strategists. But in order to really have a successful team and really grow in your career, it's always great to have a healthy balance of both, right? So when he was touching upon that expertise aspect of it, it's great if you can have that communication piece, that retention piece, that growth piece, but you need to know what you're talking about. And in the same token, my team may be a lot more logical and maybe more in the weeds in terms of stats and really looking at how to make pivots and numbers, but it also benefits them to be great communicators. So when you have that healthy blend of both skill sets on these on opposing roles, it makes this healthy blend where it creates an ecosystem when we could really deliver on our promise to our clients. When you have a mixture of someone who's communicating something that they're not really too sure about or just kind of ballparking it, you start having these rifts with the clients. But the goal with an account manager is to sound like they're the strategist. And the only way to sound like you're the strategist is to understand what the strategist is doing. And in the same token, in order for the account manager to understand what the strategist is doing, the strategist needs to be able to communicate that effectively to the point where they can jump on a call with the client and talk through it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So one question individuals may have is, well, how do you gain expertise? And that was actually a question we had when we originally launched one of our departments of strategists. And the way that we did it was actually Manny, he created a full-blown training for our marketing strategists, which included courses to watch. It also included, getting on calls and allowing our team to shadow him and his team. We did about 3 or 4 shadowing sessions where we can actually watch them audit accounts and then at the end ask our questions in real time, because our ultimate goal was to add more expertise to our marketing strategist team, our CSM team. Just like Manny said, if you can be the greatest communicator, the greatest salesperson, and the best at retaining, but if you don't know what you're talking about, then again, it'll cause a rift, and all 3 of the other things are null and void. So that is one way you can sharpen your sword, is by taking courses online, obviously reading, all of those things. But if you can have hands-on learning, we were lucky enough to be able to pick Manny's brain on a monthly basis for about a quarter when we were doing our big push on doing internal training. Then that's probably the best. And I can honestly say that some way, shape, or form, we all know somebody that's in the digital marketing industry, and that person probably knows a paid search specialist, especially when we're at this level. So I would recommend that if you can find somebody effective at paid search, pick their brain and see if they're auditing any accounts. Try to get in on one of those audits, because that was invaluable. That training that Manny gave us just a few months ago. So before I pass it to Manny, I just have a few more slides. So one of the things I want to talk about really quick is telling a good story through data. So very important that you know how to always tell the client a good story. You'll hear this in any agency of any size. And actually, when I was interviewing one of our marketing strategists, one of our junior marketing strategists, the one thing that sold me on her, as opposed to some of the individuals I was interviewing at the time, was she said, my goal is to always tell a good story using data at my current agency. So when I heard that, I'm like, this girl knows exactly what she's talking about. So very important that you know how to tell a good story. So, not to elongate this section, but account managers prepare for their calls using a variety of tools depending on what services the client has. So that could be using Google Analytics. It could be using a local SEO tool like Yext or Bright Local to just see if there's any organic listings that have been put through. Also, you'll be using Google Ads, like the back end of it, Facebook ads, etc. We do like to look at month-over-month numbers to see if we've seen any upward or downward trends. Very important, because it sometimes allows us to offset perhaps negative things. So for example, maybe one month conversions were down, but we did see that other metrics were a little bit higher. So obviously we always want to offset the negative with something positive, so that way the conversation always ends off on a good note. We also want to be able to pinpoint issues. So for example, if we have a lot of impressions, meaning eyeballs on our ads, but we had a low amount of clicks, then what that tells us is that our ads are not resonating with people. Because think about it, a lot of people are seeing these things, seeing the ads that we're putting out there, but they're not clicking, which lets us know that the click-through rate is probably going to be low, which tells us it's time to adjust the ad copy. Another example is high clicks and low conversion rate. So potentially we get a lot of people to the website, but they're not converting. And this is very common, and it happens with a lot of businesses, that they get their websites and landing pages done, by a designer that doesn't optimize for conversions, meaning that they just go on Fiverr or maybe use a template from ThemeForest for a WordPress site, and they just think, okay, I'm going to buy a template and I'm just going to start running traffic to it. But the problem is that if you don't have a website that is conversion optimized, then what's going to happen is you're going to drive a bunch of traffic to a website or landing page that is not going to generate phone calls or form fills, which is really what's important in our industry. Everyone has their own definition of what a conversion could ultimately be. Specifically in our industry, it's phone calls and form fills, and conversion rate is the percentage of times that they're actually turning into those phone calls and form fills. And then finally, we have to make sure that we're constantly setting client expectations, because again, we're talking to these clients on a monthly basis. So let's say, one of our clients says, well, I'm willing to spend a little bit more with Google, here's an extra $1,000 in ad spend. We have to set the expectation that this client's not going to see, a 50% increase in leads that month. Manny has a really good way through budget recommendations of doing kind of a math breakdown to tell us what our anticipated lead flow will be, meaning what we can expect in phone calls and form fills with a given budget. And when we put in budget recommendations, Manny and his team always make sure to put in what we're expecting in lead flow with that budget that we're about to put through. It's important we tell the client that, because if we don't, then they're going to be expecting a crazy return. So I want to give you guys a quick example of a client-facing report. So basically, we generate these reports for our clients, and then on monthly strategy calls, it's one aspect of our call. We obviously have other tools that we use, but I just wanted to show you an actual report from a client that I work with. So we do like to talk about some top KPIs like impressions, clicks, how much was spent for the month, their average cost per click, and their click-through rate, which is your impressions divided by your clicks. Your clicks divided by impressions. And it does give you a percentage that tells you whether or not the ads are resonating. For context, we ask, we want to be at a 3% click-through rate at the bare minimum, 5% being good. Anything above 5% is a stellar click-through rate. We also like to show the top keywords that we're currently bidding on. We go after hundreds, but we like to show potentially anywhere from the top 20 to top 50. So our client has an idea of the different keywords that we're going after and the different ad groups that we have live. So for example, what you guys are seeing here is a mixture of general and even geo-based type keywords, right? So for example, dentist near me, that's like a local keyword, but then dentist in Waldorf, Maryland is more of a geo-based keyword. So very important when we talk to our client that they know exactly what we're actually targeting. Example of top text ads can be found on the left. So you guys are probably familiar with what ads look like when you go on Google. So for example, if you type in dentist near me and you're located in Waldorf, Maryland, then you potentially will see that first ad, which says #1 dentist in Waldorf, top rated dentist in Waldorf, 5-star dentist in Waldorf. Obviously our goal is to optimize that ad so it's clicked on regularly, and that's where you get a very high click-through rate. And then finally, you have your segments distribution, which will actually show us how many people are clicking and from what device, right? So are they clicking more from computers, from mobile, from tablets? Over the years, we've actually found that mobile is increasingly becoming where most users are searching for dentists and different services. So it's very important that you optimize your landing page and website for mobile. You should always be thinking mobile first, because we found that majority of our leads are actually coming through mobile. Manny, before I move on to the next slide, do you have any thoughts on reporting, or are you ready to move on to the next slide, just out of curiosity?
No, man, I think one thing to note that's super important about the report section is that one way or another, you're gonna be presenting data to a client on what success looks like to them. So for this specific client, this is what they were looking for. And in order to tell that story of how we got them from point A to point Z, this is what needed to be displayed. So in whatever facet of digital marketing you dive into, whether it's email marketing, SEO, paid search, etc., there's going to be some form of reporting that will need to be presented to prove the results that you've been able to deliver with the budget that you've been acquired. So understanding what that means to the client and how you can shape that to kind of hit those benchmarks can serve as twofold. It can serve as an opportunity for learning. So let's say that they're not doing too hot, they didn't have the best month. How can you identify where the areas of opportunity were from this report itself? And in the same token, if they are doing really well, how can you double down on that? So it's not about how can I scam the client from believing that he's like doing well. It's more of like, what are we doing this month that we could be doing better? And what are we doing this month that's already working well that we could double down on? And then that's one of the main aspects of digital marketing. So when you're looking at all the keywords that Diego showed up, the KPIs, the ads, even how often things are being clicked on, it's just an identifier and a placeholder as to what can I be doing more of and what should I be doing less of. And that's just some simple terms that you just want to keep in your mind. because it's very easy to make this overly complicated. And when you're able to talk through this in layman terms and make it very black and white, it not only gains the confidence of the client, but it also gains the confidence of you and your team to be able to identify, like, all right, what's next for us? Like, how can we get this business from a $1 million business to a $7 million business by the end of the year? And it's by understanding what's happening on these reports on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and sometimes even weekly basis.
Exactly. Another thing I do want to note is a lot of times I'll actually show the account when I'm doing my Zoom meetings with them. I'll actually show them the back end of their account so that they have full transparency as to how many phone calls they got through Google, how many conversions they got through Google, and the different campaigns that we're running, as well as the ad groups within them. What I found is that the more transparent you are with a client, the better the relationship is. And it allows us to then double down on those ad groups and on those keywords that they're really looking for more leads in. So for example, for this client, they've been very clear with me that they want general and emergency leads. So you will notice that on the top text ads, a lot of these are tailored towards general, but I think it may be the fifth there. It is an emergency lead, and the client is happy to see that we're listening to them. When they filled out their onboarding form through our monthly strategy meetings, they told us they wanted more emergency leads because those can actually turn into very productive cases, meaning that if you have a toothache, you need an extraction, maybe you crack the tooth, a lot of times you will go in for dental work and you're a pretty hot lead because you need help immediately, but perhaps you are able to then do an implant, or you are able to do a crown, or you're able to do another service that's productive. Maybe they pitch you on All on Fours, which is basically a full, mouth makeover, and they can sell you on a much better, package, right? On a better plan that both helps the dental practice out, but also you, right? Because you came in with an emergency and they're able to alleviate it. These are all things that we need to understand, because I wouldn't know right off the top of my head that, this client wants more emergency leads because they have found an effective strategy to turn emergency leads into productive cases. But it's very important that you listen to the client and you tailor the reporting for them, just like Manny said, because every business is different and they want marketing tailored for them. But they also want an account manager that's actively talking about their needs and wants on your monthly strategy meetings. So Manny, I want to pass it over to you for these next couple slides.
Awesome. So let's jump into what digital marketing managers do. So based on the industry you're serving, this can differ slightly, but it can be compiled into a simple 4-step funnel. So to start off, we have strategic planning. In this phase, we dive heavily into the client's goals and expectations. This means communicating with the client to understand what they're looking to achieve from their marketing or what their end goal is. By doing this, we can better steer the direction of the marketing efforts to hit these benchmarks consistently, or at least be on the path to achieve them by the end of the month or year. A benchmark can be a certain number of new clients acquired a month, revenue goals, audience reach, market expansion, etc. So after we have this conversation, we will send over an onboarding form, which will allow us to acquire all the brand assets, logins, and unique selling propositions that we will use towards our marketing efforts, as Diego was mentioning. But from here, we then jump into the collaboration, where we connect with different departments to formulate the process we would want to design for the client in order to meet their goals and benchmarks. So we will talk to the design team in order to see what branding assets and design elements will work best for the users to convert. Then the paid search teams will build out the campaigns that coincide with the goals and conversion metrics of the company. The SEO team will write content that amplifies the service the client wants to rank for. And then finally, the social media team will ensure that their brand messaging is understood publicly. And when you have this ecosystem of all these different channels working together to create this entire package, is when you really get the results that you're looking for. So once all is said and done, the team would jump into market research and analysis. This is a crucial stage, and one that will make the difference between a campaign being successful or just flopping. We first begin by diving into the demographic and audience in the market and analyzing what is a brand voice that resonates based on common search terms. By seeking out this information and building out a buyer's persona around the ideal target client, we can better position our marketing efforts, which will in turn lead to long-term success. This is also accompanied by keyword research, budget recommendation, as Diego was mentioning earlier, and some competitor analysis to see what are other people doing that we could be doing better. And the goal is to just dominate in the marketplace. Then we dive into the final step of our funnel, campaign management. This is where the magic happens. We put all of our research and analysis to the test, and we allow the market to determine if what we're doing works or not. Another way to call this is split testing, which I would consider the heart and soul of digital marketing. As you see how your market responds to certain messaging or graphics, you then begin to make minor tweaks based off the data points that are coming in. You then start deviating the path as what you can start doubling down on, as I mentioned earlier, or which should you be stepping back from. So overall, this is a high level, and there's still so much that wasn't even talked about, but for the sake of time, I just want to set the right expectations of what we're looking at on a day-to-day basis. And there's so much that can be tweaked and managed, and each and every single part that I mentioned has its place. And you'd be surprised that when you look at it from a bird's eye view, it looks like just simple, like, oh, just make this subtle switch. But there's just so many moving pieces and gears that just need to be all towards the right direction if you really want to have a successful system designed for your client. But yeah, with that being said, I could pass it right back to you, Diego.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much, for listening to this. We're going to open up the floor for a Q&A. I just want to let everybody know that, me and Manny, we've worked in tandem to get our teams and our company to where it's at today. We've generated thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for our clients. I can even say millions, just because of the results that I've been told from my clients through effective marketing campaigns, effective communication with our clients. I have, several clients that I can refer to that have specifically told me that our marketing is the reason that they went from, brand new business owner to now generating hundreds of thousands of dollars every month. I can tell you that working in a digital marketing agency, there are, two very lucrative roles that I found in my career, getting to this point. One of which is being communication heavy, going into client services. The other is getting into the more back end, which is what Manny does. Both serve a crucial role. Both are very lucrative if you know how to do them well, and they set you up for future success in your career. And that's really why we wanted to make this presentation, because at the end of the day, our goal is to give you the data and the information you need to understand what makes a very successful digital marketing agency. But ultimately, if you're somebody that's listening to Manny, who's the director of paid search, and saying, man, I really enjoy what he's saying, let me dive into that a little bit more. Or if you enjoy what I'm saying as the team lead for our customer services team, then just know that either one of those is extremely lucrative, as long as you put in the work and the effort to become an expert in that field. One quick question that I have for you, Manny, because I know, and this is kind of, freestyle, right? That I know we didn't add this in, but a lot of times I'm talking to my clients, right? And going through my reporting. And I know a lot of times they ask me like, okay, so what are the next steps? And typically my response is, okay, well, so far we did good this month. I'm going to go ahead and put in an audit for my, paid search team. They're going to go ahead and look in your account and, optimize to get you better results this coming month. Manny, when you're doing an audit specifically for Google Ads, what are you looking for? Just out of curiosity.
No, I love that. Great question. So I think one of the main things is first looking at historically what has been working really well for the client. And I like to call this the Pareto principle, right? It's the 80-20 rule. So what's the 20% of the account that's making the 80% difference? And if you could double down and really see what it is that's making the pivots in the account, that's when you can start formulating the opportunity. So when you get these data points and you analyze in the back end, all right, so on average, our age group from 25 to 35 is not converting. And when people land on this specific page on the website, they're more likely to leave the page in a timely manner. Those are different pivots and steps that you could start doing towards a strategy. So that's when I get back, communicate to the team. And basically, like I mentioned, it's all about split testing. So we'll set the expectations with the client and let them know, hey, this is what we found could be working a lot better for you. And then it comes to communicating to the team. Let's make some changes on the ad copy. Let's make some changes on the actual landing page. And they're all logical, data-driven decisions and not emotionally based decisions. And when you can make data-driven decisions, that's when you start really seeing the results for your clients. And I think it's understanding that you're never going to have all the answers, but you can always get really close.
Yeah. And I remember, Manny, we had an account that I think it was in September. One of my team members looped you in, looped me in, and I think our lead project manager to talk about this account. And I remember, Manny, one of the things you did was you pulled up their landing page and you started just taking it apart. I think you opened up an Apple Note, you looked at their landing page, and you're like, the color scheme is off, pictures off, they need specials. So could you talk a little bit about that? Like when you pull up a site and landing page, like what you're looking for if you're taking it apart to, maybe increase the conversion rate, get more people converting?
That's funny. That's a great question, man. So that actually comes from years of doing it. So having associated myself with different specialists in the field and understanding like what does it take to build a website that's built to convert? And it differs per industry, right? Because you have companies like that are e-commerce based that sell or people that sell digital products or clothing lines or local mom and pop shops. And each one of those have different assets and different structures that need to be set in place for their website to really maximize the traffic that's coming into it. So this is basically just like my decision making has come from just doing it so often and really associating myself with the experts in the field and kind of serving as a guidance as like, all right, what can I be doing better, and really diving in and diving outside of what my comfort zone is, right? So I'm really passionate about paid search, but I also learned a lot about what it means to work on landing page optimization, which could be like its own other field if you want to dive into it. So there's a lot that goes into really understanding what makes a site profitable. And I feel like once you have once you've doubled down on that one niche that you really want to get good at, then you allow yourself to start expanding into these other branches that you could associate and really start filling up your knowledge.
Love that. Yeah, no, it's something I've seen Manny do, and it's typically our like when we're in our retention meetings and we're hitting a wall. One of the things we say is like, okay, let's loop in Manny, or possibly one of our, our web developers to work alongside him. And they basically pull. It's pretty cool to watch. They just pull apart the landing page and talk about what changes need to be done, and even little things like specials, right? Like, hey, you're right now advertising an $197 new patient special. Your closest competitors are all within the $70 to $97 range, so you're actually way above average. So I understand that you want to be seen as a premium doctor, but the fact that you're offering, you're that much different than your local competitors is probably scaring people away. Like, that's as granular as we're getting. And our customer success team then has to communicate everything that Manny found over to the client in order to get approval that we can change specials and things like that. It's very impressive, even to the point that our own company has actually like consulted Manny to talk about our own web pages and landing pages for actually our agency. So very cool to watch. So I want to open the floor up to Q&A for both myself and Manny before we wrap up. I know we're little over time, but that's completely fine. Want to give about 10 minutes to any Q&As. So I'm going to open up the chat just to see if anything's come through.